Welcome everyone. So at the beginning of the year, I made a video stating all the things that I kind of wanted to accomplish this year on the channel. Needless to say, I haven't done half of that stuff, but at the very least, I have been sticking with my mission to create build guides for every weapon type without seeming too redundant and not having too much overlapping. However, the order that I've been approaching this, needless to say, makes no fucking sense. So when I saw a comment on one of my videos that says, "How to spear, please?" Like, yeah, all right. Yep, that's all it takes. That's the one we're doing. So here we are. My name is Fist Truck, and today I'm going to show you how to spear / great spear in Elden Ring. And much like the way that spears thrust, you should thrust your finger paws over to the subscribe button. Also, slight disclaimer for this build. What I think is unintentionally becoming a catchphrase in this channel, as per usual, if I didn't do it in the build, I didn't, but you can. Step 1, make a character. I chose the Vagabond as my starting class, which does not mean that you have to do the same thing, but that would mean that you do not want to save time. I chose Elden's as my starting gift because unlike those pop-up ads I keep clicking on, this one actually gives me free money. And lastly, I modeled my dude after the wrestler who does that spear thing a lot. I would show a clip of this, but I just want to take a moment to shout out to WWE for being the first company to copyright claim one of my videos for a 10-second clip I used where I replaced The Undertaker with one of my characters. They could suck on my dick and my character's name is Oldberg. Step 2, upon reaching the first boss in the game, attempt to fight it, or in my case, unalive yourself with extreme prejudice. Why is this step important? I'm sure you are wondering. It's cause we'll be back. Mark my fucking words. Step 3, time for our weapon. I'm gonna give you 3 choices, and one is clearly better than the other 2. So with that being said, there's the fucking lance, a spear +7, and a pike. You can get the motherfucking lance by going to the War Master's shack, going slightly east of it with your horse, and then just jump off a cliff to land on this block thing. You could get the spear +7 by killing Patches, because Patches sucks, or you could get the pike by going to Stormvale Castle. There's a bit at the bottom with a bunch of dudes with crossbows and flight doors and that kind of stuff. Anyway, we're using the lance. Why? Because first, look at it, it's fucking cool. Second, it's the only weapon in this list that's named after one of the members of NSYNC that isn't JT. And lastly, it's a fucking lance. Now, I really hope this wasn't a bait and switch because I know the video is how to spear, and technically the lance is a great spear. However, for all the pokey type spears, it's the same shit. It's just that this one's slower, heavier, and does more damage. If you want something that's close enough, use the pike. It has the same exact stat requirements and has pretty much the same moveset. Speaking about stat requirements, this thing is going to require that we have 20 strength and 14 dex to wield it. Step 4, time to get our Ash of War. This can be found by going to the far, far away land of the War Master's shack. That's right, we're going to the same spot for 2 steps. And for once, it's not Stormvale Castle. And nonetheless, we're going to be buying Impaling Thrust off of Burnall because this guy sells so much good shit. And I just want to take a moment to say that Impaling Thrust sits alongside free real estate champions such as Square Off and Unsheath. What do I mean by that? Well, much like those other Ashes of War, Impaling Thrust is quick, cheap, does a lot of damage, and it also takes advantage of the stupid range that this thing has. It's a good kind of Ash of War that gets the job done without really asking too much of you, aside from hitting L2. Step 5, time to go on the raw paleo keto carnivore diet. Make like the Liver King and get strong as fuck by any means necessary. It's been a while since I've had a step like this, so I really just want to explain my method again, which I don't think is particularly special, and I assume a lot of people do this. The moment I get the weapon, I immediately gallop my ass all the way over to the middle of Liurnia. There's one mine in there that the crystal boss at the end gives you a smithing stone bell bearing. Now, if you haven't done this before, you might be slightly apprehensive and be like, hey, can everything in there kill me? And my answer to that is yes, everything in there can kill you. You are a fresh character with a supple bussy that only receives. Nonetheless, if you just run through the whole cave really quickly, you'll probably live. And the boss at the end, ironically, is soft as baby shit despite being made out of solid crystal. All you have to do is get like 2 or 3 jumping attacks on him, get staggered, stab him, and then just stun lock him to death. It's really easy. And assuming that you know where you're going and you don't die, probably within the first like, I don't know, 30 minutes or something, you can have a +6 weapon. Pretty sick. Not to mention that within the cave, there's a bunch of smithing stone 3s. You just have to put yourself in a lot of danger if you're trying to get those. Step 6, time to get a big shield because big shield fits the look. And by big shield, I do mean a great shield, which in this case will be the Golden Beast Crest shield. In order to get this thing, we gotta go to the 4 belfries, also in Liurnia, and kill the spider boss, because that's what I call it. Remember when I said mark my fucking words? Well, these are my words currently being fucking marked. Now, for regular viewers, you're probably used to me saying, hey, get the Manor Tower shield. And honestly, you should just get that instead. I just chose this because it was different. And also, I felt like it fit the look better. This does require 24 strength to wield as opposed to the Manor Tower shield, which does require 30. However, that really doesn't matter because we're going to be pumping the shit out of strength anyway. Step 7. What I once thought was one of the most useless talismans in the game is finally getting its moment in the spotlight. We'll be getting the Twin Blade Talisman, which can be found over in Castle Morn. There's this one spot with one of these big ass dudes. Kill him, climb the ladder, go around the little spire thing. There's a treasure chest with a talisman inside. Now bless Papa Miyazaki, because as of the making of this video, the most recent patch 1.09, beefed up the damage boost that this thing gives us from 20% to 45%, because even they knew this thing was a piece of shit, and it still kind of is. If you don't know what this does, it beefs up the amount of damage that the last hit in an attack chain does. If you don't know what I mean by that, just spam the shit out of R1. Eventually, it will look like your character does a move where they gave just a little bit more of a shit than they did in the previous moves. That's the hit that'll get boosted. So you're probably thinking, wow, that's really dumb. And 99% of the time, you're right. Except in this case, Great Spears only have a short 3-hit chain. So we can actually use this thing. As opposed to, ironically, Twin Blades or any other quick weapon, it takes like 5 to 7 hits before your character actually does the damn thing. Step 8. Did you hear the news? I think both a Cinnabon and an Auntie Anne's Pretzels just recently opened up in Elden Ring. Now, don't give me that confused look. You know what I'm talking about. The Stormvale Mall, previously known as the Stormvale Shopping Center, because we're getting stuff from here because it's a fish truck melee build video. Get the Curved Sword Talisman and get the Iron Wet Blade. I only got this shield to do guard counters. It's not there to save my life, it's there to kill. And the Lance, when given the heavy infusion, has incredibly good scaling with strength. It winds up being like an A or something like that when you fully upgraded. Step 9, time to lighten the load, and this is really more just about if you chose the Vagabond or not as your starting class. Take the helmet off. That's it. So I'm going to briefly talk about stats because I don't think there's much to say here. Nonetheless, in order to do the things that I did in the previous steps, you just need 19 endurance and 24 strength. Going past that, I would definitely put some points into vigor, probably get around 40, and then strength, I'd probably just pump the ever-living shit out of that and leave endurance for last. Though the argument that you can make for raising endurance sooner is that all the attacks with the lance do use a lot of stamina, and considering that we're doing guard counters, that uses a lot of stamina because you have to block the attack to follow it up with another. Nonetheless, I would kind of prioritize vigor, strength, then endurance. Now time to talk about how you're going to be playing this build. First, guard counter as frequently as you can get away with, which is a thing that has been in quite a few of my builds now, but something that's new, or at least I think is new because I don't remember, for the first time in Elden Ring and Fist Truck history, we'll also be playing this like it's Dark Souls 1, which means we're gonna R1 spam like a son of a bitch. Now, thankfully, it isn't just R1 spam as I had on the screen earlier and I'll put up again. You could do some kind of combination of stuff, though for the most part, you're gonna be hitting R1 a lot. You could do L2, then R1, R1, rolling R1, 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 R2, R1, R1. You get what I mean. You're ending with an R1. But how you get into that is up to you and depends on the situation. Your rolling R1 is a swipe as opposed to a poke, so that actually hits things sometimes, whereas opposed to the poke will miss, especially with big targets. And L2's for fat damage. Also, while doing research for this build and just reading about the lance, apparently at some point, I don't know if it's still a thing, the crouching two-handed R1 with the lance was like super fast or something like that, but I'm not down with that cornball shit, so that's beyond me. Also, this thing makes it so that we can actually hit really annoying targets like the Deathbird's head. Now, I'm not going to say that it makes it not annoying, it just makes it slightly less annoying to do so. Impaling Thrust, aside from doing a shit ton of damage, is also an incredibly good gap closer, so that's something to consider if the boss or enemy is really far away from you. Also, don't forget that you can attack while blocking, which can save your ass in some sketchy situations. One slightly annoying thing about this is that the guard counter aims upward, at least it seemed like that to me, so it makes hitting low to the ground enemies slightly obnoxious. Also, just one more thing to add on to this, and as I will always say, is the best thing about these builds is the feel of it. It just feels really fucking cool, especially when you're riding around on your fucking horse and you just joust the shit out of anything and everything. Like, just look at this, like charging at a goddamn dragon with lance in hand. It's like playing D&D and rolling a 20 on creating moisture because I'm fucking dripping right now, man. Lastly, almost forgot, just one more thing. We're gonna talk about how you take this build into the endgame. I previously did talk about the stats, but just to reiterate, get vigor probably to around 40, then just pump the ever-living fuck out of strength and bring endurance up to a number that you feel most comfortable with. And when I say pump the shit out of strength, I mean like 70 or 80. But as per usual, make sure you level up in a way that's most comfortable for you. And more importantly, we're gonna talk about talismans. I would definitely use the green turtle talisman because once again, turtles. And for the last slot, I'll probably go between the great shield talisman because guard counters, or the dagger talisman because the thing surprisingly gets bosses in a crit state pretty often. Now I know there might be a small amount of you wondering, hey, I couldn't help but notice that he didn't say use the spear talisman. That talisman that has a spear on it. Well, that's because I kind of just don't like it. Now, for those who don't know how that works, it gives a 15% damage buff to attacks that you land while an enemy is attacking. Considering how slow this weapon is, and also the fact that it's only a 15% damage increase, seems kind of not worth it unless you're really confident on the timing of it. Aside from that, I just kind of don't like it as a mechanic because it almost seems to incentivize swinging wildly. I imagine this might come in handy in PvP, but for me, seems kind of pointless. Also, it's been a holdover since I think Dark Souls 1 with the Hornet Ring or something like that. Fucking hated it back then. I still hate it now. And with that, we finally reached the end of another video. As per usual, let me know in the comments how you feel about this build if you try it out. And let's take a moment to shout out that this video didn't take 5 fucking weeks to come out. And hopefully the next video will be out sooner. Not making any promises though. But one thing we'll say about the next video is that things are gonna be getting mysterious. Anywho, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Or don't, that's fine too. And until next time, don't forget to always wipe before you shit.